We're all new to this, so please bear with us as we work our way through the tech and anything else. You'll notice that some people have an F in front of their names and that the candidates have a C plus their party. This is to enable the random sorting into smaller groups shortly. We're able to offer Welsh discussion groups, and if you wish to join a Welsh language group, please add Kim CYM in front of your name. And you can change your name by going to the little 3 dots at the top right-hand screen and selecting the rename option. This is a very serious occasion. The Senedd has declared a climate emergency. We are standing at the junction of the last opportunity to have a meaningful impact on the climate and ecological emergencies that Wales and the world is facing. We now, more than ever, need action, not just words. The Climate Change Committee tells us that approximately 40% of the carbon that Wales produces arises from devolved areas that are under the whole or partial control of Welsh government. The policies that Wales initiates and implements over this coming 5 years are extremely significant. Wales has an opportunity to lead the way to the more sustainable, equitable future that we, future generations, and the planet urgently need. Deliberative democracy, people's and citizens' assemblies are gaining popularity in a growing list of countries around the world. It is an inclusive method that is used to help make decisions, particularly decisions about divisive, difficult, or highly politicised issues, and a method that can bring together different sides to move forwards towards solutions acceptable to all. It usually involves education, but always involves a commitment to listen and talk respectfully in this inclusive process. We hope that you will enjoy that process this evening as we determine which questions we're going to ask the candidates and then move on to a more traditional style question and answer session, closing with 2 minutes from each candidate. A few simple hand signals will be used to make communication easier in the small groups. If you raise your hand if you wish to speak, and wait for the facilitator in your group to invite you to speak. Jazz hands indicates agreement. Please be considerate of others in your group and make your point as briefly as possible to allow everyone the chance to speak. You may see this signal if you're being asked to bring your point to a close. You'll shortly be randomly allocated to a breakout room for the small group discussion, where you will have 25 minutes only to work out which priority questions your group wishes to pose to the candidates. The group will need to put their questions into order of priority, and in some rooms there will be a candidate as well. When we return to the main group, the facilitators from each group will be asked in turn for the most important question from their group. If another group has already asked your top question, please ask the second question on your list, and so on until you come to an unasked question. It is highly probable, as there are so many people here, that we may not have time to have a question from every group. The top unasked questions will be sent to the candidates, who will hopefully find the time to send back answers, which we can post on the Cardigan XR Facebook page. And now on to Jim, who will introduce the candidates before we go into the breakout rooms. Diolch.
Thank you, Jane. It's really great to see so many people here at the moment. It's a really good sign. It's lovely to see some familiar faces and people who came along to the group resilience hustings that we had last night, where candidates were asked about their views on community resilience in the years ahead. It was a very positive event, with candidates speaking respectfully of each other, with clarity and vision. The climate crisis is the single biggest challenge to face mankind. It's already having a horrific impact on millions of people around the world, irrespective of their political persuasion. Extinction Rebellion is beyond party politics, and we organise this husting because we want to engage with all politicians, to engage them to put their words into action. We have 5 candidates here this evening. There's Chris Thomas of Plaid Cymru, Thomas Barlow of the Green Party, Jackie Jones of Labour, Tina Roberts, Liberal, and Greta Marshall of Propel, although I can't see her in the window at the moment, so maybe she's late. Every candidate in Preseli, Pembrokeshire, or party represented in Mid and West Wales were invited along this evening. Sadly, the others chose not to come along, either refusing directly, as Paul Davis of the Conservatives did, or simply not replying to approaches. This includes the Reform UK Party, UKIP, Abolish the Welsh Assembly Party, the Conservative and Unionist Party. They were all invited, and it's their choice not to be here. We ask all candidates to treat the hustings in a culture of respect, and we hope everyone participating will not be combative in traditional combative ways. Please be respectful in the way you engage with each other in the breakout rooms, and please be positive in your replies. We need to work together for the benefit of all. None of us is free of blame in this crisis, and it's a crisis that affects us all. And we need to find ways of bringing political wings together. Societal cooperation is of urgent necessity. And so now we go into the breakout rooms. Jane has already explained how they work. And when you come back in 25 minutes, I'll go around one by one asking the facilitators for their first question. Could facilitators please remember to unmute when asking the question and then muting again afterwards. We can't do anything if your cat bombs your screen, but if we have children singing in the background, it can be a bit of a distraction. During the whole hustings, please be respectful of other people's views. It's always good to hear other opinion. The crisis affects us all, and we need to find ways of bringing everyone together. And now, if they're ready, I can ask Anna and David to place people in the breakout rooms, and we look forward to seeing you on the other side.
Jasmine, are you okay? And Jerry? Right. I'm assuming that you cannot join your rooms. So I'll check that there's another facilitator, Jasmine, in your room. And otherwise, Jasmine's gone. Excellent. Hi, Anne. Can you hear me? Oh, look, my video on. Yeah, Anne's just joined. And if you can hear me, can you say hello? Because I haven't assigned you, I don't think, to a room yet.
Hello.
Hiya, you're right.
Yeah.
They've just started, so if you like, I can bring you into a room.
Okay.
To start discussing. Okay, let me. Do you want to do it in Welsh or English?
Oh, better be English, I suppose.
Okay, I will see if I can. Oh, can I join you? Oh, I can't.
Sorry, I had trouble finding the link. I should have.
That's a shame. It looks like. Let's have a look here, see if I can do anything about it. More. Can I put in? No, I can't. Well, that's silly of Zoom, isn't it? If more people come in late, we can just make our own breakout room. Somebody else has just joined as well.
Has there been some sort of presentation?
Yeah, there's been some time where there was an introduction, which I couldn't listen to because I was too busy making breakout rooms. What's a shame is I've made extra breakout rooms so that I could do this, but for some reason, Zoom won't let me do that.
Right.
Yeah, and so now we've got about 20 minutes to discuss with each other what questions we would like to put to the candidates. And it's doing it, I don't know if you've ever, oh right, somebody's asking for help. Hannah, Tech?
Yeah.
Somebody's asking for help. You can't see that. I'm going to have to go into the breakout room.
Are they in the breakout room?
Yeah, in number 2.
In number 2, I can go and join them if you want.
Could you?
Yeah.
Have you got that?
I've got that facility. Yeah, how cool is that?
Thank you.
I'll go and see them and then I'll
number
come back.
2.
I've got something saying the host has opened breakout rooms. Please wait to be assigned, which kind of implies that
I should be able to. All right, let me keep on trying. Apologies, Anne.
Try.
And here we are, assigned to. Amazing. I'm going to put you in room 7 and apologise to them, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Have you got your invitation? Yes. Hi, Dave.
Hello.
So basically what's happened is the breakout rooms have started already.
Right.
And so I could jump you in because they've only been going for 5 minutes, if you like. But after that, I think I'm not going to be able to do it because I don't want to interrupt the flow.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay, I'll assign you quickly to a room with less people in. Okay, room 5.
Thank you, Anna.
No probs. Did you get it?
Yeah, they denied all knowledge of having asked for help, so.
Okay, I'll press X on that then. Nina Weatherhead must have pressed a button by accident.
Yeah, there we are.
Cool. Oh, that's good.
You're doing brilliantly, Anna. Sorry, Hannah. You're doing all.
Yeah.
You're brilliant.
So we've got Thomas Barlow who's here. Hello, Thomas. Are you speaking on behalf of the Greens or is Anthony?
It's Anthony. Sorry, I'm just here.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
As an observer.
Yeah. Ellie Foster.
I think I've met before. Hello, I don't know who called my name there, but I'm here.
Okay. That should be everybody back now.
Mute well.
Yeah.
That's everybody back. Great. So what happens now then is that I have the power to ask the different facilitators from different groups to ask their first question, and then each of the candidates will have 1 minute to answer that question. And we'll go through it alphabetically. So Anthony Slaughter is from the Green Party, will go first for the first question. Chris Thomas, Plaid Cymru, goes second. Is Greta Marshall here, or anybody from Propel representing them? Nope. Okay, so Jackie Jones from Labour goes third, and Tina Roberts from the Liberal Party goes fourth. And then the second time round, Chris will go first, and then Jackie and Tina, Anthony last. So can the first facilitator for the first group, I don't know who that is, but can you ask your question, please?
Meddwl ni oedd grŵp 1, I think we were group 1. Felly grŵp 1 oedd y grŵp Cymraeg, felly na I gofyn y cwestiwn yn y Gymraeg gyntaf a wedyn na I gyfieithio i'r Saesneg ar ôl. A diolch I pawb oedd yn yr ystafell efo ni, oedd y trafodaeth yn grêt. Felly cwestiwn ni I bawb oedd, beth yw'r ffordd orau I ailstrwythuro'r economi lles yr amgylchedd gyda'r ystyriaeth I brosesau caffael bwyd bwyd lleol, swyddi gwyrdd a'r posibiliadau a ddaw gyda Universal Basic Income. Felly yn y Saesneg, what is the best way of restructuring the economy to benefit the environment with consideration for local procurement policies, local food, green jobs, and the possibilities that come with Universal Basic Income? Pob lwc.
Great. Anthony, you've got 1 minute. Go.
Okay, thank you. Really good question. Question of all questions, really. The economy needs restructuring. The year we've just been through, we've seen the pandemic exposed the flaws that so many of us were aware of, but it really did expose how our society doesn't work and how it's failing so many people, especially and the poorest and the most vulnerable. So as we come out of this, we hear lots of politicians talking about the phrase we sort of thought we came up with, build back better, but it's become common parlance now amongst politicians. What does it mean? We have to do things differently, and I'm glad you mentioned UBI. UBI has to be. We have to stop measuring economic growth the way we do. We have to look at people's lives and what matters. And it is radical what we need to do, and UBI is only one small step of that. And what it leads me to, I've just had this discussion earlier with a journalist, and we've got our manifesto out, and we've come out in favour of independence, Welsh independence, Wales Green Party last year, because we've just been writing a manifesto and imagining the world as we see it, the Wales that could be. And it's a really tricky thing to do.
That's a minute. Can you wind up now, please?
Sorry.
Thank you.
I just want to say it's a really tricky thing to write your manifesto because you're dealing about the actual practical levers that you've got, but your vision of the world as it could be. And we see independence as the only way that we could actually achieve an equal, fair, resilient and green Wales. And apologies for overrunning.
Thank you. It's not a lot of time, but it gets a lot more questions in that way. Over to Chris. Thanks from Plaid Cymru.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Diolch Sian am y cwestiwn ardderchog. Felly, yes, we have gone through a 50-month period of people really looking at how we live our lives. You know, fortunately in Pembrokeshire, we had a great opportunity to set up a community network throughout the county, 97 new community groups, grassroots approach. And that's really what Plaid Cymru wants to see, is that encouragement of people joining citizens' assemblies or joining their local groups of individuals who are willing to do stuff in the community. But what I want to see then is rewarding those individuals who are willing to actually go that mile further, radically, possibly reducing council tax for those who are willing to actually get on and do that stuff where others possibly are not so passionate. But within Plaid Cymru, we've worked out the £6 billion budget that can be achieved over 5 years, investing in green technology, green energy, and also encouraging farming practices. We've seen One Planet Development working.
That's a minute, Chris. Thanks.
But taking that further is what we need.
Thank you. Jackie Jones, Labour.
Thank you very much for the question. And I know they're going to be all good questions. Impossible to answer fully in 1 minute. Just wanted to get that out there. I think for Welsh Labour, it's an economy that is led by green innovation, and I would like to see a wellbeing index also leading the way under the Wellbeing Act. I think the best way to, one of the best ways to restructure the economy is to take into account local issues and then grow it up. And the reason that we want to do that, certainly when we're green-led, is to reduce the environmental footprint, but also because communities want to have control over what they can have control over. There's certain things we can't. But when it comes to the economy, local growers, local producers, providing the produce that the local community needs is absolutely key, I think. Now, there's an awful lot to do in restructuring the economy if we look at it that way. We do have some of the levers at our disposal. And with my final sentence, the UBI, I'm absolutely in favour of that. And of course, the Welsh Government has initiated a pilot on UBI as well.
Thank you. Tina Roberts. Thanks.
Hi, I'd like to just jump straight in with saying, actually, I think we need some big ideas here, and the Welsh Lib Dems are keen on taking significant sums of money, government workers' money, and investing it and trying to think about using everything that we invest in current fossil fuel companies to be able to use that wisely to kickstart some of our green initiatives in Wales, so that some of the things that we've got plans for, you know, the wind farms, the issues with trying to ensure that we can get grid connections, that we can kickstart private companies being able to invest in Wales. So I think we need two approaches. We need that very, very big idea, that global idea where we say, okay, let's take this significant sum of money and let's try to move that to somewhere where we can encourage private companies, kickstart all sorts of green initiatives where we literally start moving our money to back the things that are green. And then we also come from bottom up, and we start to think about the small ways and the listening that we can do within our local communities for how they want us to act.
Thank you, Tina. This is, I feel similar to how I did yesterday in the thing, but I wish everybody had a lot longer to talk, because they're all great answers. And also what a tragedy it is that the other candidates aren't here. So we can share each other's ideas, and it's just a shame like that. But just big respect to all other candidates speaking so fastly and so clearly on each of the questions. So if we can go to group number 2 then, and the facilitator to ask the next question.
Okay, shall I do it, Linda? Yeah. Okay. How would you radically regenerate biodiversity while supporting farmers and building climate resilience?
Okay. So Chris Thomas answering the first time this time. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr, Jasmine. You know, I mentioned just now One Planet development and the opportunity for small scale, human scale development. And really we're going back, you know, to a century or more where my forefathers had a small holding, and we're looking at that human level of development. But it's seen as radical at the moment, so we've got to embed it into education. We've got to get people understanding about soil association, permaculture, biodiversity. So I, you know, myself, as you know, I'm a community councillor in Cymru. I'm then a county councillor. I'm the councillor on the cabinet for the environment. So I've been working with the likes of Ant Rogers, the Nature Partnership, biodiversity, getting those the funding in to actually explore how we can develop a more sustainable agricultural base, not see soil erosion or the quality of the soil being degraded through intensive farming, but looking how we can actually rotate, going back to more practices that can ensure that we have a sustainable growth program of food, and then looking at how food can be brought into the procurement element within the county.
A minute then, thanks. Would it be easier for the candidates if I just hold my hand up and then you all know? Was that better than jumping in? Okay, and if you keep going on and on, we'll just cut you off. So
yeah, cut us off, because I might not see your hand.
Okay, yeah. So Jackie, next then, please.
Thank you, Diolch yn fawr. Welsh Labour has proposed in its manifesto that we create a new system of farm support, and that is not just having grants for farms, but it's also only receiving public money if there are additional environmental outcomes, positive outcomes, and I think that's the right way to do it. And there'll be a community food strategy as well that will come out of that, hopefully, if we are returned as a government or part of a government. Certainly for biodiversity, there have been quite a lot of proposals within the manifesto again about different habitats. So for example, 2,000 pollinator habitat sites, 1,000 community food growing sites, 200 community orchards cultivating native fruit. I think that should be actually expanded. We should have it in schools. We should have it on grass verges, all sorts of things. But we've got to have the right environmental infrastructure as well to make sure it's the right tree in the right place at the right time, or biodiversity in the right place at the right time. So I think I'm probably out of time by now, but biodiversity is just as important as anything else within the environmental sphere. Thank you.
Thank you. And Tina Roberts, thanks.
Okay, thank you, guys. I think that what we have tried to say is very similar to some of the other parties. We are really very keen on making sure that we green our towns and cities, that we think very carefully what those species are that we put in, and we think about the biodiversity. That has to go hand in hand. Planting has to go hand in hand with protecting our current species that we currently have in Wales. So it's all about ensuring that we give planners greater scope to look after our environment that we live in, to protect current trees, to make sure that they have the teeth with which to do that enforcement, to make sure that what we have in existence remains there whilst we go on to build greater and bigger. We've talked about doing a huge tree planting schemes to really encourage people to put more trees in. But more importantly, I think we have to then make sure that we help our farmers, and we've got what's called an edges scheme where we will hope to fund farmers to do that work.
Thank you, Tina. Anthony, then.
Okay, I shall try and keep in time this time. The biodiversity nature crisis is as critical as the climate emergency. We know that, we recognise that, and it's welcome to see other political parties doing that as well. One of our proposals in our manifesto is a Welsh Government Commissioner for Biodiversity and Animal Protection to give this subject the serious weight at a cabinet level it needs. And that commissioner would be responsible for setting out a plan, a roadmap, and reporting back regularly. It is devastating. Everyone in this room knows the figures for the loss of biodiversity, and we really need to be taking that as seriously and acting as urgently as we are on the climate emergency, or as we should be on the climate emergency. I think key to all of this as well is education, getting children reconnected with nature, establishing the importance of nature. Working with farmers is absolutely crucial. And I wish Emily was here because she's been doing so much good work on this. You know, the farmers, I often say, farmers and the Green Party should be on the same side. You know, they're the custodians of the landscape, and they grow our food. They value and cherish the same things we do. We need to work with them for a just transition, for an agroecological solution, 10 years transition of farming that's working for nature. And
that's a minute, Anthony. Thanks. Actually, more than a minute, but you go.
Sorry.
Okay, and the facilitator from Group 3, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I'm a little bit torn. Why am I keep muted? Am I muted? No. It tells me I'm muted because our question is similar, but I feel I need to ask it because it will give the candidates an opportunity to go into more specific depths. So I am going to ask our first priority question, which is, how would your party bring about regenerative farming by 2030?
Brilliant. Okay, Jackie, if you'd like to have a crack at that one first.
I think part of that, we as you said, we had some answers before, and I think that the creating a new system of farm support, and when that is fleshed out, that will take quite a lot of do the heavy lifting with regeneration of farming. We've taken a very bold decision on NVZ this previous year and all across Wales. I think that has to be worked through with farmers, and there's lots of work there to be done. But I think that once the Wales community food strategy, if we are returned, which encourages the supply of locally sourced food, I'm sorry, that's my dog there in the background, then quite a lot of the farmers, I'm hoping, because again, I'm like Anthony, we want to work with farmers rather than against them, but also local producers. And there are a lot of micro farms as well. So there are aspects of it that need to be worked through collaboratively, maybe in a citizens' assembly, maybe in a farmers' assembly, if such a thing exists, or we could create it, that we can all work these things through. Regenerating, regenerative.
That's time. Thank you. I think after a minute, I'll put my hand up, and after minute 10, then I'll say time's up. How's that? Okay. Over to you, Tina. Thanks.
Thank you. So I want to also pull up the fact that what we find for many, many farmers is that they get themselves into a situation where they can't apply for any funding because the value of the land that they sit on, potentially the buildings upon it, preclude them from being able to get some of the financial support that they need. So the Welsh Lib Dems are very clear that we need to rethink that financial support. If we are going to have a paradigm shift, we have to help farmers to also invest in green ways that they are going to support our energy production, that they also are going to change over to different ways of doing things. So it's not just about the biodiversity, it's not just about the hedges and edges that we're really thinking about supporting farmers. It is about the big ideas where we say, actually, we know that the value of your property can preclude you from getting some financial support. We need to be much more clear that we have to help people to actually make the changes that will benefit the rest of us.
Thank you, Tina. That was wonderful timekeeping, everybody. Okay, over to you, Chris. No, Anthony next. Thanks.
Okay, regenerative farming. Really hard to do this one in a minute. And I've just noticed a comment about someone wishing they could share my optimism about working with farmers. I don't have rose-tinted glasses. I'm aware of some of the things that go on in the farming industry, but it's been a key shift for Wales Green Party to start talking to and working with the farming community, because we can't make the changes that we need to make by 2030 without taking those sectors with us. So it starts with conversations. It starts with conversations knowing that you're not going to agree with everything, and this forum illustrates that exactly. It's about working with farmers to make the change that's needed. As I said, education is key. It's about using the public money for public goods. And it's about the farming community not feeling, they're going through a very hard time at the moment post-Brexit. And I speak as well, this surprises some people, I speak as a vegan of 20 years, but I do a lot of work visiting farms, beef farms. We have a vision of what a green world would look like, but we can't wave the magic wand and get there. We have to do a just transition across every sector of society, and we cannot leave anyone behind. We cannot implicate certain people and dismiss them. So it's an uphill struggle. It's some very difficult discussions to be had, but I believe...
Thank you. It's tough, isn't it? Thank you. Okay, and
it's
over
very
to you,
focusing.
Chris. Thank you. Chris Thomas.
Thank you, Jim. Yes, well, in Plaid Cymru, we want to introduce a specific Welsh agricultural bill to help with the transition of decarbonisation and use of farmland. But from a personal point of view, and that I can show that I've been involved, on a community level, we used our community hall here in Hermon to get Farming Connect in and hold a session with local farmers, but most importantly, to get young farmers into the industry and young farmers who want to see that transition into low carbon and best use of land for local procurement. So after that evening that we held in the local hall, we had 3 young farmers who teamed up with their uncles and their grandparents and are now actually transitioning the farm from one generation to another. Those are the grassroots level is what I want to see happening. I'm a firm believer in community-led development through the work in Planet, and we can see how places like Finland and Denmark have actually excelled in that passing on family farms. In the local authority, we have 46 council-owned farms, and we can do a great deal locally.
Great. You're all getting better on the timekeeping. This is excellent to see. Could we have the facilitator for group number 4, please?
Okay, so our top question, I think it's been done now, it's about biodiversity. So our second question was, would candidates commit to initiating citizens' assemblies as part of finding new ways to take difficult decisions for Wales?
Great. So about citizens' assemblies. So Jackie Jones, you're first up, please. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, it's the short answer. I truly believe in them, but they have to be done in the right way as well. I would suggest it can't just be a tick box exercise. I want it to be truly representative, diverse, and impactful. So any because it didn't specify on what, citizen assembly needs to be very specific about what it's going to be addressing, what the questions are going to be, whether it's generated from within the assembly within a theme, that's fine, or whether it's outside, it's created first and then the assembly gets to think about that and come out with solutions. That's another matter. But I do think that if we do have citizens assembly, and I do think we should have that, one of the questions could very well be, what do we do about, I think Anthony mentioned in our group, further powers, or how do we retain powers in Wales? So these are big questions, and they do require reading and understanding and bringing things to the table, but for all age groups, for all diverse groups, Jackie, as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Tina, over to you.
Yes, is the simple answer. We have put into our manifesto that absolutely we would wish to utilise citizens' assemblies. The Lib Dems are renowned for only deciding things when we have gone to, to our various collections where we will debate and choose to look at a question in the round. I do also believe that citizens' assemblies will encourage younger people to get involved. And as you know, we do have principally a lot of older people, more towards our age group, I hate to say it, but more towards our age group are going to be the voting majority. And I think citizens' assemblies have that power to maybe really grasp the younger people's voices and allow them to be heard on the main stage so that it filters up into all that we choose to do. And it also allows us to concentrate out into rural areas and allows us to bring voices from a breadth of Wales.
Thank you, Tina. So over to you, Anthony.
Yeah, this is quite, can answer this one quite quickly because the answer is yes. And as it's been pointed out in the chat, it is one of our manifesto commitments. We're an internationalist party, the Green Party, but we're an internationalist party that believes in localism. And we want to see power devolved to the lowest possible level. People should be making the decisions that affect their lives. So absolutely, citizens' assemblies are the way forward with a lot of that. I'm quite inspired. I've been doing a lot of events with Disability Wales and various other groups in the last week or so. The disability rights movement have got a brilliant slogan, nothing about us without us. And that should apply to every citizen. We should all be responsible for the decisions that affect us. And Jackie's touched on the sort of demolition of devolution that's going on from Westminster at the moment, actually weakening Welsh democracy. So it's really good to hear all the parties supporting something that could only strengthen our democracy. I mean, we're a party, some of you will remember, we're a party that agonised for years over whether we should even have someone called a leader. Now, that was a very long-going standing argument. So we believe in grassroots democracy, grassroots activism, everyone's voice is equal and everyone should be contributing.
Perfect. Thank you, Anthony. And over to you, Chris.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, it's in our manifesto, and if I was there in Cardiff Bay, I would push it in further because working in Pembrokeshire with I know how many people know Planed, but community-led local development, CLLD. It's a pan-European development where in my community, Planed came in 2004. We created a community action plan. And from that, we put up the 800, 900 kilowatt wind turbine to power 500 homes. We've developed the eco centre with the 9 kilowatt solar panel to drive the air source heat system. So give people the chance to come together to look at the solutions in their own community. That's what a citizens' assembly is all about, and it's been done in Pembrokeshire in the past. We're reinventing, but we can learn from how it worked in the past. So I would really want to get involved in absolutely ensuring that local communities drive the agenda. Local communities have the solution, economical, environmental, health at the local pace. So we have done it, we will do it again.
Thank you, Chris. I love citizens' assemblies, and it's great to hear each of the parties speaking so positively about it. It shouldn't be about us without us. Thank you. So that's my 2p's worth. So the facilitator from group number 5, please.
Yes, that's me, thank you. So how would you, the candidates, support renewable energy across Wales? And a little supplementary bit at the end. And would you reduce the current tax on micro hydro systems? Thank you.
And the first, that will be Tina answering that first, please.
Yes, we do support renewables. We're looking to try to encourage all new house building, where we would look to be making each new home its own mini power station, to try to encourage bills being brought down for people to be able to see that there is a benefit in turning their energy consumption over to renewables. We're looking to try to release some of NRW land in mid Wales to really consider more wind power, because after all, that's one of our biggest assets that we've got in Wales, the ability to generate energy through wind power. We need to make that easier to do. So in all ways that we are looking to encourage people, we're looking at the big picture. Where can we create the land? Where can we use the land to be able to generate renewable energy? And we're trying to encourage our homes, all new homes, to be built to a standard that will allow people moving into new affordable homes to see that as a paradigm shift over to that type of energy.
Thank you, Tina. Over to you, Anthony, for the same question.
Thanks, a really good question, something I really want to talk about. We know the climate emergency, we know the deadlines. The Welsh Government's got its targets for 2050 for net zero carbon emissions, and it's failing to meet those by its own admission. We argue that that's not nowhere near fast enough. The science demands net zero by 2030. Then we have the problem of, as a developed nation with limited powers, that's a lot of big things need to happen very quickly. And where do you find the money? The question we always get asked. We're proposing a radical new idea, a green transformation fund for Wales. That would issue bonds, and there would be a low level of entry, so citizens, anyone could buy into these bonds, and that could raise billions very, very quickly to fund the radical and urgent shift that's needed in renewable energy in Wales. The fund would cover things like renewable energy, new build of houses that are completely eco-efficient, energy efficient, retrofitting the entire housing stock of Wales, and electrifying public transport. All these things that could happen. And what's really exciting about the Green Transformation Fund for Wales is it can be done under existing devolved legislation. So we're looking at these things need to happen really quickly. We're obviously a party that supports renewable energy. We're looking at imaginative and new ways, and we've had some really positive comments from economists, saying that this is a really good idea that could work, and absolutely yes to the reduced tax on microgeneration.
Thank you, Anthony. Chris Thomas, please.
George, Jim, yes, absolutely. You know, the renewable energy is a cornerstone of the Plaid Manifesto. We wish to create a new energy company for Wales, owned by the people of Wales, Unni Cymru, then to look at cutting out the corporate middlemen. As I mentioned, our community wind turbine only getting about 6 pence a unit sold into the national grid, and then you and I, we pay at home 17p a unit. It's got to be a more closer way of controlling that money. But also in terms of divesting the pension funds, Dyfed pension scheme, I'm a member. There are 44,000 of us as members. We don't have a say on how that is invested. So we need to get that £17 billion that is held in that pension fund used for renewable energy. And if I was elected, I would make sure that all the pension funds of public pension funds of Wales would be used for green energy, an instant win for us to invest in our renewable energy through money that we put in ourselves over the decades. So let's make sure we change policy for the best.
Thank you, Chris. Over to you, Jackie Jones.
Thank you. My dog is still whining in the background. I apologize for that. I think that's a really good idea, Chris, about the pension scheme, and I would really like to see that done. well, because there's an awful lot of money in pension scheme, but not only that, maybe the Development Bank for Wales can also have its hand in that, and green bonds are an excellent idea, and I personally do support those. Now, of course, the Welsh Government has, I would say, has already done quite a lot about renewables, and it's opposed extraction of new fossil fuels, and it expanded energy generation, creating a national park, and creating a timber industry. And also in the manifesto, we're committed to 20 new low carbon houses, and I wouldn't want to see those on green sites. They have to be on sites, brownfield sites. And there's a database of empty houses. I would like to see that done as well, and retrofitting of homes.
Thank you. I think that's everybody. So if the sixth facilitator from the sixth group could ask the question, please.
Hi, that's me. Well, first questions that already been covered because it was relating to public procurement and facilitating local production with benefits other than environmental. Our second question is to do with transport. We'd like to ask the candidates, what are your strategies to facilitate moving people to public transport away from cars, basically, because public transport is in short supply in a lot of areas around here.
Anthony, if you take that one first, please.
May I interrupt and say that Michelle has her hand up?
Yeah, because you're going on to the second question and our group hasn't even asked a question.
No, it's because our first question has already been asked.
I thought we got to pick another question as our first question, that's all.
We haven't got around all the groups yet, so hopefully this is the first question from group six?
It's our first question for group 6, but
okay.
our first
I thought we were group 6, sorry.
No.
Thank you. Okay, Anthony, if you're ready, I'll start the timer again. Go.
Okay. Yeah, accessible public transport is key. It's absolutely key to everything that we need to do, and we do suffer a lot across Wales with that. It needs, again, this is where the Green Transformation Fund comes in, decarbonising public transport, but we've got to make public transport the easiest option. The money has to be put in, it has to be there, it has to be usable. And we need to look at things. One of our manifesto proposals is free public transport for the under 21s, something that the Scottish Greens managed to get through the Scottish Parliament, which shows what can happen when Greens get elected. It's just absolutely crucial, and the infrastructure isn't there. You know, the fact that, well, pre-pandemic, when I used to go around visiting Green parties across Wales, the fact that I have to go into England every time when I want to go to North Wales, it's just absolutely ridiculous. The taking back of the rail into government hands is a welcome step. I think we need to see that across the board with public transport. But we also do need to be looking at, you know, we have councils declaring climate emergencies. Cardiff have done so, but they're still buying diesel buses. You know, we need, and my time is up, but we need to electrify our public transport.
Thank you, Anthony. Over to you, Chris.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Yes, in terms of transport accessibility in rural areas, specifically, you know, for North Pembrokeshire, we need to look at how we can link in with community transport initiatives. We have the Green Dragon with us in north of the county, but also today now in the cabinet in Pembrokeshire we were rolling out the 2028 ambition of having hydrogen buses. For Pembrokeshire, we have the Milford Haven Energy Kingdom development with offshore floating wind, bringing in 50 gigawatts of energy into South Pembrokeshire, into Milford Haven, which is in Preseli, the Preseli constituency. So using that to generate hydrogen is going to be important. Pembrokeshire has the highest level of electric cars as well. So I'm thinking a car sharing scheme. Does everybody need an individual car? I don't think so. So if we look at a car share scheme for communities, that can also be reinforced then with a bus service from a community point of view. So there are solutions out there. We just need to see them embraced and take further. Diolch.
Thank you, Chris. Then Jackie, over to you.
Thank you very much. The Welsh Labour government has, sorry, now the cat's arrived. It's like a menage or something. I apologise. The Welsh Labour government has invested over 750 million already in trains investments and active travel, and that is true, but it isn't enough, is it? We have to get to carbon neutral much faster, and I agree with it. It should be 2030. The Welsh government is sticking to 2050 at the moment, but certainly if I were elected, I'd like to push that, push for it to be reduced. And in our manifesto, we've got a 10-year infrastructure investment plan set out. The car share scheme, Chris mentioned, I thought was quite a good one for Pembrokeshire, but also the flexi bus that exists. I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to see more public transport in public ownership, or at least with not-for-profit sector, an alliance there, because I think that is much better. There's free travel for older people and a reduced cost for younger people as well within the manifesto that we've put in. I do think that wind, waves and water is our strategy.
I'll let you have a little bit longer because of the cat element, but you know, we've got to stop somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Right, it was funny. That's always good in politics. Tina, over to you.
I'm a teacher, so you can believe that when I come at something like this, I do believe that we can talk till we're blue in the face, but I do totally agree with our manifesto objective of giving the under 25s free public transport. And that is all about making it easy for them to make that shift. If we can encourage the under 25s, because it's free, to start using public transport, perhaps we start to see their behaviour change. I can put a PowerPoint up, I can tell them these things, they know the theory. Don't forget we're teaching this from kind of primary school right the way up. You still don't see that behaviour change until you start to encourage people to actually find it easier to get onto a bus, to get onto a train, make it free. Then we have to concentrate on ensuring that we have timetables to rural areas, because we don't want people cut off. We don't want them feeling like they've got no chance of going out to see their friends in the evening because they can't get back. The 25s age 25s want to go out and see their friends. Let's encourage them in every way that we can.
Thank you, Tina. Okay, and the question from group 7, please, the first question.
Okay, we had a real power sharing experience in ours. So though I'm the facilitator, Holly is the note taker, and we've had a lot of response about farming, though that hasn't in any shape or form wrapped up the issue, but we're going to move on, and Holly is going to phrase our question about the urgent need for emergency planning. Over to you, Holly.
Yep. We had truly devolved facilitating. It was very cooperative. So I hope that I represent our group well by saying the question to the candidates here is, how quickly can we get change into the planning system to make new homes energy efficient and sustainable, to meet the standards needed to meet net zero by 2030, but preferably much sooner?
Okay, and that first question is to Chris, please.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Holly, for the question. In terms of planning, yes, local authorities have the powers. We're now going through the process of a new local development plan in Pembrokeshire, but there is continual updating. And if we can have the guidance from Welsh Government, even strengthened further to ensure that all new housing is of a eco standard, but also the houses as power station has been funded through the Swansea Bay City deal, and in Pembrokeshire we do have the opportunity to actually ensure all housing can generate elements of energy, so reducing bills for local people who predominantly in West Wales we have low levels of of salaries, and the more you can cut on people's daily expenditure, monthly expenditure on homes, the better. So yes, the planning process is there, and I would say that a citizens' assembly approach in Pembrokeshire, planning would be one of the top priorities to ensure that we can have homes and gardens that can generate food and energy.
Thank you, Chris. Over to you, Jackie.
Thank you very much. I agree with everything Chris has said, again, for the third time. And I'm very happy to, because he has the experience of the council and for Pembrokeshire. When it comes to the Senedd, I think this is an area where we need to work very closely together to make life better for our citizens across Wales. And we can move quite quickly on this because, of course, when you look at the manifestos, apart from certain parties, certainly Welsh Labour, it has in its manifesto to overhaul the planning system, to try and make it easier, and a green-led economy, economic regeneration. So that has to happen, and but it has to be also specific to the region that you're talking about, or the locality that you're talking about. So there has to be a collaborative approach. So in the Citizens' Assembly on planning, I think would be very ideal, but I'd also obviously include affordable housing and the plan about where these houses and how we get, certainly in Pembrokeshire, young people to stay or coming back and being able to afford housing there.
Thank you. And over to you, Tina.
I think I'm in agreement with both of you. I think that actually we're at that point where all of the parties here, within our manifestos, we are saying that citizens' assemblies are crucial. I think we can hear, and we should be able to hear, a body of voices kind of filtering up through all parties to drive collaboration, to actually allow our planning laws to do what we want them to do in Wales, to allow us to create the type of homes that we want, and to protect that kind of the kind of homes that we want, because we want those homes as power stations. We want people to shift what types of energy they're using. We can do that. Each party is looking at pretty much the same kinds of areas. Potentially there's differences in the way we might look at the financial aspect of it, but ultimately I think that we're all much of a muchness, that we really want collaborative work driving forward that concept.
You've got 2 seconds extra, Tina. I'll let you have them at the end of the next one because you're actually
okay.
Okay. Anthony, over to you.
Yeah, it's always tricky coming last on some of these questions where we're all going to agree, and that agreement is good. But I have been in Hustings recently where someone did make the point, all the political parties have agreed that this is something that's wrong and shouldn't happen, then why is it still happening? You know, we've got parties that have been in power. So without getting into a Punch and Judy sort of negative politics thing, we are all in agreement. Planning is key to everything. We did a major overhaul of our policy document last year, which isn't the manifesto, but it's our basis of policies for a sustainable future in Wales, society in Wales. And it was quite interesting for me. I took a really hands-on approach. How often every issue came back to planning, almost everything came back to planning. And it's just not given the time or taken seriously. So it's a really... Hello, sorry, did I? Sorry.
Keep going, you're great.
So talking about energy producing houses, I visited Salsa House, many of you will know that, outside Bridgend, a good 5 or 6 years ago. It's about 10 years since it was built now. This was built by Cardiff University. It was a research project. It was built on the same budget as social housing is built, and it generates more power than it can use. And speaking to the team there, and they've had every level of politician, from me up to First Ministers, up to MPs, visiting the site and going how wonderful it is. Why hasn't it happened? Why are we still building houses that aren't fit for the future?
Thank you, Anthony. Just say we're going to go around another couple of times with hopefully more questions from groups, and then each of the candidates will have 2 minutes at the end to say actually how each party differentiates, is different from each other. It is exciting to see how much crossover there is, and it's frustrating that only one of these guys is going to be representing us, because they're great views. And so, but to be able to hear what sets you guys apart from each other would be wonderful later on. But now back to the questions again, and the facilitator from group number 8, please, your first question.
Right, sorry for butting in earlier. Am I group 8? Yeah,
I think
okay.
we are.
Because I thought, yeah, sorry, Who's we?
Sorry, I thought we were Group 8.
Yes,
I think we can wait for you.
No.
Do you want to know who Group 8 is? Tina, Roberts, Brendan, Julia, Lim, Jan, Sarah Wright were in Group 8.
Okay, our first questions about transport and housing have been addressed. So we would like to ask, how will your party make NRW, Natural Resources Wales, more accountable and give it the powers and resources to enforce anti-pollution laws, e.g. agribusiness and water companies, robustly?
Good one. Okay, please, for Jackie then, you're first up.
Well, I think that's a question of regulation and enforcement. And there's some things in the chat about, of course, and as Anthony said, well, parties, you've been in power, why haven't you done it all yet? And that's absolutely a fair question. I think with regulation of Natural Resources Wales, that is one aspect that we can do much more about. It can't just be draconian though. Again, I am not just saying it, but I am a cooperative party candidate as well, and I believe in the cooperative values. So working together to enhance our environment, to enhance our citizenship, and to enhance our Welsh lands is very important. And working therefore together has to be the solution. When it comes to Natural Resources Wales, they have quite a lot of let's say power, and I think sometimes that isn't used to the best of the abilities of what they should be doing.
Thank you, Jackie. Over to Tina now. You get 1 minute and 2 seconds.
I'll just unmute then. As I was looking at this, I was thinking about this last year that we've just gone through. And so it's really about putting into context, isn't it, how money has had to be moved, huge amounts of money moving over to support small businesses and all the other, and the NHS and all of those things that we've had to use vast amounts of money for over this pandemic. But as we move forward, we now have to be really conscious of potentially trying to support NRW with a greater amount of financial support if they are going to be able to enforce some of the laws that we are talking about. Because we have seen over the last year vast amounts of money cut from their budget. And as I'm hearing from a number of people on this call, there were a lot of redundancies made in NRW. Well, there is only so much that you can do. And if you are going to be able to actually do the monitoring, to do the testing, and to enforce the rules that we have put into place in existence, then you need bodies on the ground. And we need to be conscious of that and be thinking about where our priorities lie. And so I feel very strongly that we have to look at giving back the ability to enforce the rules that we've set up already.
Thank you, Tina. Anthony, over to you.
I think, yeah, the money question is a really good point to raise, because that's one thing that we did learn in this last year, didn't we? Theresa May told us there was no magic money tree. And we had decades of being told the national budget is a household budget. But when the government needed money, the money was there. And the climate emergency and the nature crisis demand no less than we spend the money that's needed. So absolutely fully agree on the fact that Natural Resources Wales should be resourced adequately. There's also a role for the our proposed Welsh Government Commissioner for Biodiversity and Animal Protection in this. And another thing I'd argue for, we're in a really good position in Wales. We've got some really good building blocks to take these things forward. One of the things we're pushing for in our manifesto as well is to give the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act more teeth, make it actually become legislation that can be used to tackle these issues. So there's a lot of scope there. There needs to be some reorganisation possibly of NRW. They do get a lot of flack, they do get some things wrong, but we do need to be addressing these problems and investing money in them that's needed.
Wow, thanks. You got 6 seconds to roll over to next time. That's tremendous. Chris, over to you.
Diolch, Jim. Thank you for the question, Diolch. Within the manifesto with Plaid Cymru, we do mention how to work with the Natural Resources Wales, but we want to create a network of river systems operators. So actually breaking down Wales to the catchment areas of the main rivers and tributaries. So actually look a mapping out of rivers, and then having local authorities and Natural Resources Wales working with the resources that are there at the moment in cash terms of expenditure. We are seeing now, you know, a lot of money was drawn in from European projects, but that is ending, although, you know, there is a year or so left of money with RDP, Rural Development Plan. But the Shared Prosperity Fund that it's supposed to follow on from UK government is not going through Welsh government, but directly to local authorities. So I would actually want to see local authorities bidding for that Shared Prosperity Fund, working with community groups like we have in North Pembrokeshire and river cleaning and NRW. So there's opportunity to take that money that was European money now coming through UK Parliament. Sure.
Thank you, Chris. And now first the question from group number 9. Please.
So waiting so long, technical difficulties, sorry. Right, our questions, like the others being the last, have been covered, and we've only really got 2 questions, so I will go with in priority. With the 2 recent coal mine applications, do the candidates think this fossil fuel industry has a future in Wales?
Another great question. And Tina, over to you, please.
I am going to say that I don't believe that there is a future for any coal mining in Wales. I believe that alongside that of the Cumbrian mines, that we have to phase it out, as uncomfortable as that is, for jobs, for livelihoods, for all of those other things, for expertise that perhaps goes back over generations. We have to look to our future, and we have to be really conscious of standing up when we go onto the world stage in COP26 to say, actually, if we are asking the rest of the world not to use coal, then we need to be conscious that we don't want to be mining it ourselves. So yes, we do have to stand up and say, no, this isn't right.
Well, you've got 16 seconds left. What's going on? You're running out of words. Anthony, over to you.
This will be a short one as well, because the answer is no. There is no place for fossil fuel extraction anymore. It is a betrayal of future generations. It just cannot and should not happen. And as was mentioned, we've got COP26 coming forward, and Boris Johnson's government can even propose Cumbria in the same year as they're talking up that. It just can't happen. I mean, we'll see some arguments that Welsh steel needs coal production. We've got a radical programme for green steel production, which is way too long to go into in a minute. But there are alternatives, and we don't have any options. We have to find the alternatives. It is just beyond, it is out of the question. It shouldn't be considered at all. So the answer is just an emphatic no.
Thank you. Over to you, Chris.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Again, within our manifesto, 100% energy from renewables is our pledge with Plaid Cymru. So there would be no place for coal extraction. And we've already talked about changes in the planning regime. So we know we need to make it absolutely clear that there is no point in submitting a planning application for a coal extraction site in Wales, and that we do look at alternative technologies and investing in, as I said, hydrogen and other forms of technology. We have them budding with us now, and we need to support the non-fossil sector. In terms of a global solution to coal, well, you know, China and the USA have to be pushed to actually stop coal mining, and supporting that process is what we will do in Wales. And obviously with a referendum that we are promising in 2026, Wales will have its voice on that international stage to actually reinforce that coal mining ends on a global scale.
Thank you, Chris. Over to you, Jackie.
Thank you very much. We have a policy of opposing fossil fuel extraction, and in our manifesto, that is renewed policy there, both on land and in waters. Well, there's also a moratorium on new incinerators as well, and especially around Cardiff. That's a big issue. The COP26, I'm particularly concerned about. I know that some people in Wales have wanted to have a voice in COP26, and this, I think some of it will be online, no doubt, to bring those voices. It isn't a citizens' assembly, but to bring like 10,000 voices to the table in some of the parallel events in COP26 in Glasgow. And I hope that goes forward. And I don't know if you've heard about this or not, but you may have done, but I urge you also to get involved with that. WCIA is facilitating that. And I think it's important to have as many people there as possible, because I don't, I'm concerned about the Johnson administration and their non-proposals for COP26, let's put it that way.
Thank you, Jackie. Again, it's a shame that the other candidates aren't here, but there we are. So the group number 10, please, the facilitator there.
Oh, wow, we got there. So I'd like to refer to Nikki Cross to ask our top question. It has been addressed by one candidate, but not by all.
Thanks, Vicky. Large amounts of local government funds and Welsh pension funds are invested in fossil fuel companies, which are funding climate chaos and destroying the lives and livelihoods of millions of people across the globe. Divestment from fossil fuels and investment in Welsh renewable energy projects would directly benefit the people of Wales and future generations. Whilst pension legislation is not a devolved matter, will the candidates commit to amending the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act to turn the worthy objectives and aspirations of that Act into duties capable of being enforced?
Thank you. So it's Anthony first from the Green Party.
I suspect I'm the person who's answered that already, am I? It's a brilliant piece of legislation, groundbreaking, and it's really good to see the campaign in the Westminster Parliament to get it adopted for the UK as well. But yes, it needs to have real teeth. It needs to mean that certain things have to stop happening. That's the short and brief answer.
Cool. Thank you. Over to Chris. Next up. Thanks.
Diolch, Jim, a diolch, Nikki. Yes, I mentioned previously, I'm a Dyfed pension fund contributor, and I have no say on how that investment is being rolled out. So it's quite clear that there needs to be that democracy within that pension fund for people then to have a vote on how it invests. It's all very cloak and dagger held with Carmarthenshire County Council for Dyfed, but it's £17 billion, and I would, Plaid Cymru, it's in our manifesto to divest from fossil fuel in pensions, and we will push for that to happen. But I also think, in terms of investment, the Conservative government took away the social investment tax relief on renewables, where people invested in renewables, you'd have a tax relief on an annual basis. So with Plaid Cymru, I would be pushing to actually get local people who have money in the banks, international banks, and probably not being invested on non-fossils, to actually invest through tax relief in Welsh companies that are promoting renewables. So from both ends, we need to push those investments as far as possible. Diolch.
Great. Thank you, Chris. And over to you, Jackie.
Thank you very much. I think with pension funds and other large funds, I think that the big companies have seen the tide turn, as it were. Sorry. Did everyone get that? Oh, sorry. Trying to be a bit lighthearted. In another life, I was an academic and I taught pension funds and investments, etc. And there are, when it comes to charitable investments, the ethical investments can be done. That only has to be written into their memorandum of understanding. And it's all doable. And we don't need to seek extra powers for that, as far as I understand it. But certainly we've got some levers of affecting change on a different scale here in Wales, and that would be the Development Bank, as well as the Cooperative Centre and Bank as well. who are much more in favour of ethical investment. I also would support a change. I'm a lawyer by trade, as in legal academic, so I fought very hard when I volunteered for third sectors about the socio-economic duty and the Wellbeing and Future Generations Acts and other pieces of legislation that will give us more rights. So I've used their seconds, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll take them off you next time round. Tina, over to you.
Welsh Lib Dems have looked at very much the same thing. We're looking at investing as much as 13 billion of pension funds over into renewables and really removing our support from fossil fuel companies. And I totally agree. Many people who pay into these pension companies have no choice as to how their monies are going to be utilised, and many of them would want to. So it needs to be tied together with citizens' assemblies and then a movement over to a way that we can support climate projects. So I'm very keen with there being targets set for supporting these projects in Wales and being very specific about setting that money to our own benefit, to the Welsh people's benefit, so that we are utilising our own money to support projects here in Wales.
Thank you, Tina. So 11th group, I don't know how many groups there are. No, is that it?
10.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Well, we've got probably enough time for one more question. So should we say we'll have a question from group number 6? If you've got one that hasn't been asked, just as a random group.
Oh, we have actually, yes.
Okay, let's have that one then.
Well, I'm going to make an executive decision here and take them out of order. It's what 3 practical priority steps would the candidates take to mitigate climate change? That's 3 options.
Top 3 options. What 3 steps would you take? This is probably the last question then, and then we'll have 2 minutes each to wind up to say the difference to your party. Well, we're hoping at 9 o'clock, if anybody wants to stay on and continue the conversation, then they're most welcome to do so too. But if you've got more, anyway, there we are. Yes, right. So over to Chris then, please. Top 3 things.
Thank you very much. Yeah, top 3 mitigating. I would say that we would encourage households to actually purchase renewable energy, energy that is only produced through renewables. So there might have to be some penalties on, or incentives to ensure that we move to that renewable energy status. It's all about, ensuring that there's a financial incentive, isn't there? That there's a need for people to actually support, because some people are not so quick in supporting decarbonisation and renewable energy. So that's one. A second one would be to reform, the farming support to actually see that transition for decarbonisation in the farming industry in rural Wales that will support farming families to ensure then that there's a sustainable farming. And the third one would be to incentivise, as I said, the tax relief on supporting renewables. We'll really see people investing in renewables.
Thank you, Chris. Over to you, Jackie.
Thank you. I would 3 practical steps. Once the new assembly, the Senedd is elected, I would suggest diverting some of the government money into schemes such as investing in the housing, low carbon housing. These are all in various manifestos as well, by the way, but that's one of the things that can be done almost straight away, hopefully. It depends on who's on power. And using the levers of government that we have in order to divert some of the monies, a large section of the monies in e-schemes, so in ecologically friendly schemes, so e-cars, buses, retrofitting houses, etc. And then I would also like to see local authorities' money also utilised in that way, reinvigorated into the green economy. I would also then encourage schools to participate in the new curriculum that is coming online in a couple of years to ensure that the environmental concerns are taught first and foremost, and make sure that we're all using recycling, etc. So from the ground up.
Thank you, Jackie. Over to Tina.
I would say that I would put the generation of houses as our mini power stations first and foremost. Prince Philip said something many, many years ago, I think back in 1969, he said, people have to have a healthy dose of self-interest when it comes to changing behaviour. And I believe in what he said. I think we have to help people by showing them that we can reduce their bills, we can assist them to move over into other ways of having energy generation, and they can see the benefit of it. So then I would like to see more electric car charging points. And I think that's a practicality that we need to really think carefully of in Wales. You know, we've got long distances people have to go, and they're not entirely convinced that they can actually get through these distances without needing to go into very strange places to charge their cars. Finally, for me, it's about public transport. Let's do that under 25s, free transport, so that we begin to encourage a different behaviour. It's all about behaviour change for me. From the bottom up, it's behaviour change.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tina. And Anthony then.
3 points, that's going to be difficult. First one, legislate to ensure there's no future fossil fuel extraction of any kind or nuclear power in Wales. Another big one, retrofit the entire housing stock, taking people out of fuel poverty as well as reducing carbon emissions at a drastic rate. Electrifying public transport. I don't see electric cars as part of the answer. They're a transitionary phase, but they're not addressing the problem. Another big one for us is the polluter pays principle, actually charge the cost of carbon onto things. One way of doing that would be a frequent flyer levy, so people who fly a lot actually pay the true cost of flying. Why are we subsidising aviation? Why is aviation fuel VAT free? Finally, make ecocide a crime. Let's actually make the legislation do what it needs to do to tackle the urgent emergency that we face.
Great. Thank you very much, Anthony. Again, it's a shame that the other candidates aren't here. We've had an email just in now from Greta Marshall from Propel, who apologises for not being here. She says her daughter got married on Saturday and it must have been a bit of a bender because she still doesn't feel up for coming along to a hustings. So I think a big hand for Greta. Must have been a good old party, especially as her daughter got married in Australia and she's here in Wales. So anyway, so there, it's a shame we couldn't hear from her too. But if we go through now for 2 minutes from each party to say you're different, what's the difference between you and everybody else? And if we go through, we'll go the reverse order, maybe Tina first, then Jackie, and then Chris, and then Anthony, if that's okay. So Tina, over to you.
I think that what we're trying to do is a collective effort across all of our manifesto to ensure that we have an economic handle on what we're trying to do. We have put the climate as one of our 3 central planks. We have said that it is absolutely essential that we begin to act upon it, and we're prepared to put money behind that backing. We have said that we will spend 1 billion per year for 5 years, and we will ensure that we encourage all sorts of economic ways to ensure that we are encouraging private companies to begin to feel that they have our support to be able to invest in everything that we are doing to move away from fossil fuels. So I think for the Welsh Lib Dems, we are very, very clear that we look strongly at education, at ensuring that our young people grow up knowing about how serious an issue this is, that they understand what they can do to make a difference, that we hear their voices through citizens' assemblies, that we begin to encourage them to get involved, and that we begin then to think about ways that we can ensure that the housing they're moving into, the transport they're using, and the way that they are working is all environmentally conscious. So it is all about encouraging those younger groups to understand that we are bringing them through to a point at which they can take the reins from us and know that we have handed over something that they can work with. So for the Lib Dems, we have said all the way through that we are very clear about the financial support that we are prepared to put behind this. We are prepared to make our towns and cities work as 20-minute centres, that we will focus on rural transport. We will focus on free transport for the under 25s, and we will really think about how we are driving forward to encourage young people to take over from us.
Thank you, Tina. Jackie Jones, Labour Party.
Thank you very much. I just want to, we were talking a lot, and there are quite a lot of comments in the chat about coalitions and politicians working together. I know that Welsh Labour obviously has been in power for 22 years. However, during that time, they've been in power with other parties, including Plaid and Liberal Democrats. So we do have a record of working in partnership and in coalition with other parties. In that spirit, our manifesto sets out that we want to collaborate because in the last 22 years, 11 have been subject to austerity measures where a lot of money has been clawed back to central government, or hasn't been handed down, if you like, to Cardiff Bay and to other parts of Wales. And that's been very challenging. And on top of that, of course, we had the very bad EU trade deal and COVID as well. So there have been quite a lot of constraints. But within those constraints, I think 40 years or more of degeneration, of deindustrialization and the after effects thereof have been very challenging. And absolutely the Welsh Labour Party accepts that. There's a lot to do. And I think the manifesto, sorry, again, my dog, recognizes that. So when we're talking about in the manifesto building back fairer, it talks about a greener building back, recognizing that that's the way to do it. And I think, therefore, it's very challenging to see the differences, and I absolutely agree, between the parties to some extent, because there's a joint recognition, which is fantastic, that a lot has to be done on this agenda. Some of it is nuanced, but some of it is major, how we approach it. I think the difference for Welsh Labour, without going through the manifesto, and I'm already out of time, without going through the manifesto point by point, I would say Welsh Labour has been in government, has proven that all of the commitments that it made in the last manifesto, it actually held. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Over to Chris Thomas, Plaid Cymru.
Diolch yn fawr, Jim, a diolch I bawb am y noson. You know, in terms of Plaid Cymru, obviously we're making it crystal clear that we're going to invest £6 billion in the green recovery. And that's going to focus in on developing the huge potential that we have in Wales, untapped potential, natural resources that can be used for our energy production, but also the young people and not so young people, the talents that we have in Wales. I sit as a governor on Pembrokeshire College, and it's amazing to see the ideas and the initiative that comes through young people. We've now got to allow them the potential to develop the techniques and technology. We've seen in Wales now, and particularly in Pembrokeshire, we've invested in the voucher system of the bringing in a fibre internet. And through evenings like this, look this evening, we've had 60 people debating. Well, the citizens' assemblies are there, aren't they? They can be done immediately because our infrastructure now, through the COVID pandemic, we've gone on Zoom and Teams and talked to each other from our homes. We can move forward with getting a citizens' assembly up and running pretty quickly, and we just need to embrace it. But what Plaid Cymru is offering more than anything, of course, is a referendum on independence. Having independence from London will allow us to actually roll forward our plans at a quicker pace, use those talents, use those resources, use the opportunity to develop a different society, a society that focuses more on community and not on wealth and profit. That we have to look at what do we want in our lives as citizens of Wales? What kind of a democracy do we want for the next 20, 30, 50 years? And I think what Plaid Cymru is offering is an opportunity to do things differently without being sort of linked in with other sort of parties in London. So let's do it ourselves. We can do it. We have the talent. We have the know-how. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Chris. And then Anthony from the Green Party.
Thank you. Just to answer one of the questions that popped up in the chat earlier, we have endorsed the 6 principles, and I have just to answer that. I think we need to look at this. We've got the Senedd election, we've got local authority elections next year, then we've got a general election 23-24. These could be the last elections where we make the change that's needed. You know, we are running out of time, and it's declarations of climate emergency are well and good and are welcome, but we need to see the radical action happening at pace and speed. So why are we standing? What would Greens in the Senedd do? I mean, we're not going to lie. We're not going to be the next Welsh government. Everyone knows that. But two or three Greens in the Senedd would be holding the next Welsh government to account. We would be providing the scrutiny that's needed. We've heard brilliant things from every party that's represented here today, lots that we agree on, and also lots of well-meaning words, but we need to move faster. So we need that voice of scrutiny, that voice, that critical friend in the Senedd saying, yes, your intentions are good, your ambitions are good, but we need implementation, and we need implementation at speed. So that is why I strongly make the case that we need Greens in the Senedd. And we've got to look at, we've got a certain element of proportionality in this election with the regional list. People really need to think wisely about how they use their regional list, because you've got a choice in many cases between getting a Green in on the regional list or getting Abolish the Assembly in. Who do you think is really going to push the things that we all care about? And we've seen across the world, in Europe, that Greens are now in government in one form or another. And again, it's often collaboration and cooperation. But we're in government in 8 countries in Europe now. And we saw the fantastic results in New Zealand last year. People vote for Greens because Greens get things done, and they vote Green when they know those Greens can get in. So I just urge you, I mean, and I'm really very pleased to have been here tonight, and I love all the stuff that we agree on and talk about collaboration and cooperation, because the next Welsh Senedd is going to need that with whoever's in there. But I would just urge you just to really, this is a very serious time. So going into this election, think about it, look at all the manifestos, and vote like our future depends on it, because it does.
Thank you, Anthony. My role now was to wind it all up and to make the urgency evident, but it's clear that everybody really understands that already. We haven't got time to mess about anymore, and whoever we have in power, in whatever level it is vital now. And so we've got great choices, and it's been a good event. I really want to say thank you to everybody who's organised this event. There's Jane and Philippa and Audley and Sue and Bethan and David and Hannah and Vicky and Anna, and all the facilitators for coming along, and for the candidates for coming along. It's a shame that the others didn't come, but that was their choice. They were all invited, you know. And thank you to everybody that's come along to take part in this. It's clear that there's a lot of crossover ideas, and it's clear that there's a lot of ideas amongst us all who aren't candidates. And if we work together, we can make a change. We haven't got time to mess about anymore. The urgency is there. And the more we talk to people and the more we share with our neighbours and colleagues our candidates' views, the more those views will get further afield, and we'll have wise decisions made about who we vote for. Again, it's a shame we didn't hear what the others had to say, but there we are. It's just about 9 o'clock now, but we've got the opportunity to stay on the Zoom. If anybody would like to stay on, the candidates, you can go. You only agreed to be here till 9, but if you want to stay, that'd be wonderful. And we can go through some more questions from the groups. if that's what you want. But if you've all had enough, totally understand that too, because the kettle is on the boil. But thank you everybody for coming, and it's been a really good show. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much, and thanks for staying.
Thank you. Thanks everyone.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I'm going to go because the dog's been asking to go out for ages, as you heard. So I think I better take her out before there's an accident.
Nice to meet you, Jackie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That was really inspiring.
Can we unmute?
Yes, yes. Well, maybe. Will it be mayhem if we unmute? We could just all shout goodbye. But
yeah.
I've got to go. I've still got marking. So good night, everyone.
Yeah.
For coming. Thanks for your time.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you.
I'm off too, but thank you. That was inspiring. Cheers.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you. Good luck.
I should have said, if anybody wants to join Extinction Rebellion and Cardigan Group, we meet every Monday evening. There's a Facebook page, as there is Facebook pages for most regions. And we're not just about sitting in the streets, we're about a hell of a lot more than that. So do get involved in whatever way you can. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr iawn I bawb am y noson. Thank you everybody. It's been a great sort of experience of seeing how all the rooms work and everybody getting ensuring everybody's voice is heard. So diolch yn fawr iawn. I'm going now to do a leaflet print. So for the next canvassing round. But thank you. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi gyd.
Diolch. Good luck.
So with no candidates left, do we want to ask questions, or what does anybody want to do?
Can I just say thank you very, very much to everybody. It was a brilliant job. Jim, you're amazing. Hannah, you're even more amazing. And Jane, well done for getting it all sorted. And it's been really brilliant. And thank you very much for having me, as they say. It's been a great party.
Thanks for being here, David. It's teamwork, isn't it? You know, what we can do as a team. It's fab.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'll always be the Dalai Lama from now on. I thought the collaboration theme was so important to get these parties to collaborate before the election, not just when they have to. So we.
I think that's really important to remember, to keep these candidates on track as to what they've said, in that they've professed that cooperation, and there's been some expression of urgency, but actually very little, except for the Green candidate. But it was extremely interesting to hear.
Anna has a technical point.
I didn't want to interrupt anyone. I just wanted to, shall I stop recording now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We've got Dylan here, who's